starting now. I gotta mute it. I have to share it. Why? Well, hopefully we'll hear ourselves when it starts. Here. Live. And sorry, we're almost there. Just getting Twitter on board.
Well, now that Twitter's ready, maybe you can introduce it.
Yeah, I think we're just about ready. Let me just go but make sure we don't hear our, I don't know why we're not hearing our voices. Is everything up?
I don't see you.
No.
Are you on?
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing.
Yeah, it looks like we got some sound.
Okay, then we're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
So, welcome to EoZTV Live. I'm Elder,
I'm Mrs. Elder.
and this is February 23rd. We will be doing these as often as we can.
Absolutely.
Yes. So, welcome to everybody that's joining us. Sorry we don't give too much advance notice to that, but if you're one of the privileged few that happened to catch the tweet, I welcome you. Today we're going to talk about a story that I put on the blog this morning. There was a girl in Gaza named Mara Diab, and and she died. She had kidney disease. She was on dialysis, and she died because she couldn't get medical help. And when she died, which was last week, the reason was given. Well, we can look at this one person on Twitter, for example. She put this little 30-second video of the poor girl, and clearly in pain. And it says, Abs Winston, I don't know who she is, but she has about 17,000 followers. But she's not the only person that tweeted this. It says, Mara Diab, born and died today, which was, again, the February 17th. I don't know what she meant by undersigned, in Gaza, because Israel refused to let her out to get proper renal treatment. That's what it said.
Unbelievable.
It said that Israel refused to let her get out. So what really happened?
I don't know. I think you're going to tell us.
I hope so. So what really happened? So let's look at the other news. Like, here's the Palestine Information Center, and look at the headline. Headline says, 10-year-old Gazan girl dies due to Israeli blockade. That's what it says.
Unbelievable.
So now, keep in mind that between, just around the time, like a couple days, just around the time in February, I'm not sure, I think it was right before she died, Egypt opened up the Rafah border, allowing several hundred Gazans to be able to go into Egypt. For some reason, Mara Diab was not one of them. But this is Israel's fault. But there's something a little bit weird when you read this article. It says, they're referring to his father. It says, mourning his little kid, the father Abdul Halim Diab told the Palestine Information Center that his child Mara Diab had been suffering from renal failure for more than 6 years. She had undergone kidney flush in Gaza hospitals, and she was on dialysis. He said Mara succumbed to her illness because she was prevented from receiving treatment outside of blockaded Gaza. Okay, that sounds pretty bad. But he said something interesting after that, buried in the fifth paragraph of the story and not mentioned in the headline. It says, the father held the health minister, Jawad Awad, and the head of the external medical treatment department, Amir al-Hindi, responsible for the death of his daughter. These are Palestinians. This is the Palestinian Authority. He's blaming the Palestinian Authority. He's not blaming Israel.
Right.
So he's blaming them. So what's going on? And then he says a little bit more. He said, We'd got a permission to transfer Mara to the 1948 occupied Palestine for treatment and for urgent kidney transplantation, but the two officials turned blind eyes to Mara's case in a flagrant violation of all ethics, social norms, and humanitarian laws. What does that mean? It means that he got permission from Israel for her to receive treatment. There's a little bit more detail about this in the Jerusalem Post. Jerusalem Post, he was waiting for treatment. The Rafah border crossing was open with Egypt on February 13th, but no permission there. But nobody's really blaming Egypt. And it says in an interview with Al Jazeera, she said that they contacted. This is weird. This didn't make sense to me. It says the family contacted a Jenin resident who was ready to donate a kidney, but the move was prohibited by international law. Donating one kidney is not prohibited by international law, so I have no idea what that's about. You're not allowed to sell your kidney. But to donate it, people do it all the time, and it's a very admirable thing to do. So there's something a little bit weird about the father anyway. But he said that Mahmoud Abbas decided that the girl should be transferred to Israel to get a kidney transplant. But according to Diab's father, the Palestinian Authority health minister, Dr. Awad, opposed the decision. So that's why they blame Awad for their daughter's death. But there was permission. The father said explicitly there was permission for the girl to get treated in Israel. Supposedly Abbas said it would be okay, but I don't know what really happened over there. But what really happened is that there's always been this infighting between Hamas and Egypt and the Palestinian Authority, or the Fatah-led Palestinian Authority. So one side decides to do something, the other side says we're going to do the opposite. In this case, it sounds like Hamas would have probably let the girl go, but Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, said, no, we're not going to do it.
This whole story is just so sad.
It really is sad. It's unbelievable. And the girl is, it's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy. But, even so, it's an excuse to bash Israel.
I know another one.
But it's the people that are bashing Israel on this know the truth. They read the article. This is a Palestinian site over here that said the article. Even though their headline says one thing, the article says the opposite. It says, you don't only have to read a little bit to see what happened. And the truth is there. And so everybody knows what really happened, but people choose to say that this is Israel's fault because they're so invested in the lie that Israel has it in for Gazans and wants to hurt people and wants to hurt everybody that, it's just these absurd slanders against Israel because, and there are people that are all the time going into Israel for treatment. It happens literally every day. There are ambulances that go through the crossing in Erez, and there's and these things and Israel gives permission, especially for life saving procedures. They give permission immediately. There have been cases of terrorists that have pretended to be patients or that actually were patients and that use this as an excuse to try to bomb and to kill Jews. But Israel still lets them in. Egypt doesn't let anybody in. The earlier time that the Rafah crossing was open this year was the first time in 73 days, I believe. And even so, they let very few people in. They said it was open for 3 days, but it was only a few busloads of people that made it through. Only several hundred people, even though there are 25,000 people that are waiting.
Well, Israel should adopt what they're doing. That's what I say.
You think that Israel should close the border?
Absolutely.
There's a
because they're going to get bashed anyway.
This is true. You could say that. However, what's interesting is everybody says, Palestine needs to be a state, and that's the important thing. Palestine should become a state. Now, what happens when Palestine becomes a state? What happens is it has borders. Israel's going to have borders with a state. Right now, Israel controls the territory in the West Bank. It does not control the territory in any real legal sense in Gaza, but it controls territory in the West Bank, and it is. And there are plenty of workers that are going in. As a matter of fact, another one of the stories that I had yesterday was showing that the number of workers from the West Bank that went into Israel has increased dramatically in the fourth quarter last year. It went up, I have to see if I can find it right now, but it went up from like 22,000 to 26,000 in a quarter. It's not here, sorry. It is a 19% increase in the number of Gazans the number of West Bank Arabs that were working not only in Israel, but in settlements specifically. And it is, see if I could find it quickly here. So sorry about that. I didn't know I'd be talking about this. But it is, I'll find it soon. 19%. Nope, I don't see it. It's funny. Okay, I don't know where it went.
Okay, well,
anyway.
you tried.
Yeah, I tried.
This is what happens when you go live.
This is live. This is what happens. It is, it's here somewhere. It was definitely one of my stories. But yeah, here it is. Number of Palestinians worked in, there we go. We can look at the story now. 19%. In fact, which is really a phenomenal number. To 19% of all of the Palestinians in the West Bank work, or not. I was saying not 19%, but it's a 19% increase. 26,000 workers working in the settlements. So let's say that okay, now there's a Palestinian state tomorrow, and then somehow the borders are decided on, and that's it. Okay, now what happens? Are they going to be allowed to go and work in Israeli territory? Are people commuting from Mexico to the U.S. and coming back every day?
I don't think so.
No. I mean,
no, they're just sliding underneath the border.
Right, yeah, that's true. But it's like it is like, okay, the EU has rules that now allow free travel between, but that was only because they specifically made rules. Can you imagine that it isn't Israel and Palestine, even if there's a peace agreement? Can you imagine that it would be, that the borders would be that open and they would trust each other that much that they would allow to have thousands of people, or actually 100, though, if you include the number of West Bankers that work in Israel, the actual number is well over 100,000 right now. I believe it's 120,000 or so. So you think that they're going to let 120,000 people cross a national boundary, a national border every day, back and forth? You think it's going to be any easier?
I don't think so.
Than the current system that they have, where they have to go through these supposedly humiliating checkpoints? It's going to be worse. It'll be much worse for them. But they say, Israel has a siege on Gaza. No, Israel has a border with Gaza. Israel has the right to control who goes in and who goes out. Israel has decided, right, and Israel decides, okay, for humanitarian reasons, we will allow these people from Gaza to go in, especially when Egypt is the only country that's deciding explicitly we do not want anybody from Gaza. The only country bordering Gaza that says we don't want any of them in here. The number of people that go to Egypt and back and forth from Gaza is tiny compared to the numbers. Israel lets there are business people that go in and out of Israel every day from Gaza. Not only talking patients, I'm not talking VIPs, I'm not talking reporters, regular Gaza business people that sell stuff. There was a story today, I believe in Ma'an, I don't remember, talking about the used clothes market. I think it was Associated Press. I didn't write about this. There was they were trying to say, oh, look how terrible things are in Gaza. They are forced to buy used Israeli clothes. But the fact is, there are a number of business people that go into Israel. They pick up, I doubt that they pay anything. They get, discarded clothes from Israelis, and they go in and sell them in Gaza for cheap. And people are picking up designer clothes and stuff like that. And it is, the story was trying to emphasize, since it's Associated Press, the story was trying to emphasize, oh, look how terrible it is that Gazans have to buy, these used, hand-me-downs from Israel.
Well, I wish I could live as good as those guys over there. Their houses look quite nice and better than mine. Yeah. So
no, that's the West Bank. Gaza's didn't look
fair.
quite as good, but it's
conceptually,
I know. But the interesting part about it was that with yes, the story to mention it, but it also mentioned, as an aside, that these business people are traveling back and forth from Gaza to Israel every day. If there's a blockade, how come business people are allowed to just go in and out of Israel every day to buy clothes? That's not much of a blockade. That's not much of a siege. Yes, there are restrictions, but the restrictions are far less than the restrictions would be between any two countries that border each other that are effectively in a state of war. They're not even close in history to anything like that. The amount of access and the amount of humanitarianism that is going on between Gaza and Israel. But what we're going to see instead is we're going to see these liars and these haters are going to keep saying things like, oh, Israel's refusing to do, and the world believes it because that's all the reporters talk about. That's all the newspapers say is, oh, the Israeli siege, the Israeli blockade. No, the besiege and blockade is, a lot of it comes from Hamas, much of it comes from Egypt, and in this case, some of it actually comes from the Palestinian Authority itself. And that is the news that you're not hearing in the newspapers. For now, I'm Elder.
I'm Mrs. Elder.
And thanks a lot again for listening.